Hi, Aaron. Come on in.
Good morning.
How's your day?
Good.
Good. How's the new son and wife?
Wonderful. A little bit up a little late last night, but pretty good besides that.
Oh my goodness. Well, you're doing a great job of being on time, but we'll talk about that. Also, I was going to tell you, today we're just going to go over your goals for this quarter. I know we set those last review. Just to remind you of what those were, you had 3 of them. The first one was to be on time. The second goal was to head up an ad campaign. And your third goal was to get an employee from the company on a media channel so that we could be an expert resource with all the changes in the online marketing. So I'm just gonna go over your results here, what you evaluated yourself and what we thought you did. Okay. So let's start with goal number 1, being on time. How do you feel that you've been doing with that?
I think we've done pretty well. I don't believe there were any major issues besides, a little baby puke and a little bit of traffic here or there that might cause me to run just a few minutes, but I don't think that there were any major problems.
Yeah, absolutely. You've done significantly better than last quarter. You've definitely hit that goal. We're really happy about that. Keep that up. Whatever you're doing, it's working. Also, keep bringing in the baby pictures. We're enjoying that. So for your next goal, let's talk about that. Heading up an ad campaign. How do you feel that's been going?
Pretty good. Been working with the team, try to get everybody focused on the goals and trying to get everybody, coordinating the schedules and things like that is probably the biggest thing. But, there are some strong characters, so just trying to fuse the talents together and get everybody pointed in the same direction with the same goal. But it's going pretty well so far.
Yeah, absolutely. How are you communicating with your teams?
You're talking about like the extent or the way that we communicate, or like the specific channels of communication, like face-to-face,
Sure.
Skyping when necessary. Try to be within reason, as the manager there, try to coordinate and within reason try to work with people's schedules,
Right, because you have a lot of team members in other areas.
Right,
correct?
right. Coordinating with different locations and just trying to, people have unique family events, and I understand that even more so lately with the baby stuff. So try to work with things like that are unique circumstances within reason, but always aware of time constraints.
Sure.
But communication has gone well so far.
That's great to hear. And how did you decide who to add to your team?
There was a specific pool to draw from, and I just tried to be as unbiased and objective as possible, and what the end goal was, and then trying to fit the skills that we had and the people that we had, and the ability of those individuals to work together to create that desired outcome, and that was kind of the basis of forming the team.
For sure. So as far as heading up the ad campaign, it sounds like you've got the general steps going very well for you, and you guys are still in that process. It was brought to my attention that you haven't been communicating openly with your team. Some of the members have come to me and said that a few times they've learned about a deadline that was past due, so they couldn't actually do anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any idea what this might be about?
Well, I think sometimes I try to carry a little bit more of the load than I should, and trying to take the overwhelming burden of things and not dividing those up. You kind of, certain things get lost in the mix, and different kind of conflicts, schedule conflicts. And then it's kind of you may drop the ball on small details here or there, and then I end up having to go back and try to make corrections after the fact, and after sometimes there have been a couple of cases where it was after the due dates.
Sure. Specifically, when you were supposed to meet with the client, what was it? Let's see, 2 Mondays ago, it looks like they were expecting to see your whole team. Instead, it was just you. Is there any way you could do things differently so that doesn't happen again?
Certainly. I probably should have coordinated that a little bit better, and probably backwards planned that event, and with the assumption that everybody would be present for that, rather than again trying to be out front all the time and thinking that I could shoulder the whole burden myself. Just trying to be, I guess, probably a little bit of micromanaging. It's probably been, that word's probably getting tossed around a little bit here or there.
Right.
And just trying to take on too much and trying to own too much of the details, I think.
Sure, absolutely. So what can we do? What can I help you with so that the communication with your team can be better? I understand you're in different locations, so what ideas do you have where we can improve this?
Gosh, I think just making sure that that we can communicate openly with each other. That we all, probably the individual team members, have access to the technology to be able to get in touch with each other at all times on official channels, I guess I should say, and not personal channels.
Sure.
That would probably be one of the biggest things.
Okay.
Yeah, and the general communication piece, and some of that is probably kind of the personal thing, just letting go of some of the control and allowing some of that, and things that I wouldn't be able to put the onus on other members of the team.
Sure, absolutely. Well, I highly suggest maybe doing a weekly meeting, setting it up to be consistent every week so that you're on the same page, and I believe that might help you with your team's communication. I wrote down here those options that you just talked about being open and having access. So I'll definitely check back in with you within the next 2 weeks to just see how that's going. I expect that the feedback from your team will be that they feel in the loop, that they're not missing important deadlines for this project, because it is very important.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll talk about that in about 2 weeks. Do you have any other questions about the situation? Any other things I can help you with that goal specifically?
I don't believe so. The only thing would be, like we mentioned, the technology piece, and seeing if we can get some of those resources made available to each individual team member to be able to facilitate what we're trying to accomplish.
Right, we can definitely do that. We can open up the access so that they have use of our inner office for management communication channels. So I'll put that down here. Okay. So let's talk about your third and final goal that we had from your last review, which was to get an employee on a media channel as an expert resource. We definitely accomplished that, so thank you very much. You did a great job with that. I see that you got Bob on the local news channel for a segment over online media reaching the customer.
Mm-hmm.
So I was wondering, just if you could tell me a little bit about how you achieved this goal.
Well, I had called in a favor from a gentleman I used to work with over at the news station, and just touch bases with him and let him know, kind of put ourselves out there, trying to network and utilize that network a little bit, and put them out there that we could be subject matter experts for a given segment like that. And not long after that, the call came back that they were running such a segment and that they were looking for that subject matter expert, and we went ahead and plugged Bob in to be our go-to guy there, and to be the face of the company for that particular segment.
Right, that was fantastic work, and I think if you apply that networking and the way you communicated to get us on that news channel to your team, then I just think that there is so much success ahead for you. So definitely keep up that and maybe apply that to your team a little bit. I really appreciate your time today and going over these goals here. I did want to touch base on what maybe you thought some goals would work for next quarter when we do your review, something to work on. I definitely already have being more open and having a weekly meeting with your team for a goal.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll write that down here. Have a weekly meeting with your team, and hopefully that will improve the feedback I'm getting.
Mm-hmm.
All right. What do you feel would be another goal that we should write down?
Probably that kind of some of the intrinsic leadership stuff. The general communication, letting go of some of the power and some of the the detail stuff. Being able to delegate and not trying to carry the entire load.
That's a great idea.
Communication's a big one, and the delegation, and those are, clearly are the internal ones, and that doesn't really have an external input, I don't believe. A little bit of self-reflection to go along with that, I'm sure would go a long way.
Absolutely. The delegation key is going to be so important as you continue to head up ad campaigns. And as for your third goal, should we focus on maybe continuing your networking, or what are you thinking?
I would say maybe some type of, what do I want to say, kind of a quantifiable like increase in performance along those lines, where maybe an increase in percentage increase in sales or something
Okay.
like that based on the work.
Absolutely.
Maybe if, you know, something that kind of fits, you know, along the lines of marketing, maybe a 5% increase from sales or something along those lines for the quarter, or
I do like that it would be for the quarter, because then we can measure it at your
Okay.
next review. I think that's a great goal. Looking at your numbers here, 5% increase would be a nice goal for you. Increase in sales. Okay, great. So I have down for your next review for your goals, have a weekly meeting with your team, work on delegation, and we'll analyze that by your team. We'll get some feedback there. And then increase sales by 5%. So then now that we've reviewed this quarter's goal and gave you some feedback on your performance, we have next quarter's goals and how we're going to measure those. Do you have any questions over any of the goals?
no.
Okay. Do you have any questions over the feedback I've given you today on your performance for last quarter?
No, I definitely understand, you know, kind of the intrinsic nature of our first goal, in that way that will be kind of the linchpin that affects the other goals, you know, kind of increasing performance overall.
Okay, absolutely. And we've already gone over how I can help you with these goals. Do you have any other concerns or I should know about?
The only question in my mind would be the kind of the timeline for making resources available for the rest of the team to help facilitate with the communication piece that we talked about.
Absolutely. Well, I will reach out to them, and I'll reach out to you in 2 weeks and see how things are going. And I definitely want to get some peer review going by the end of next quarter. So we'll schedule a meeting for 2 weeks. Wednesdays seem to work for you in the morning?
Sure.
Okay. You and I will sit down and talk, and we'll decide where you're at with that, and we'll schedule a peer review then.
Okay.
So we'll focus more on coaching you through this, and then we'll look at your team later.
Sounds good.
Okay. So thank you so much for your time. I really enjoyed going over your goals, and I believe that you will attain them. Again, if you have any questions, let me know. I'm here to help you and coach you. I will type this up and have you sign it later today. And do you have any last questions for me?
I don't think so.
Okay. Thank you for your time, Erin.
Thank you very much.
Have a good rest of the day.
Thanks, you too.
Come in. Hi.
Hello.
How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Good. My name's Thomas Tischer. You must be Stephanie.
Yes, nice
I'm
to
going
meet
to
you.
be interviewing you today for an HR position that's opened up here at UPS. One thing I've noticed is with your resume that you seem to be well qualified for the job. Could you just tell me some things that make you interested in this job?
I'm very interested in the job because I enjoy working in HR. I have 2 years of experience in it, and I've enjoyed it thus far. And I know that UPS is a global company, and so I'm very interested in working for a global company and learning from them.
Okay. Could you tell me a few things that you know about the organization that makes you particularly interested in it?
Yeah, absolutely. Honestly, I think it's really interesting that they have like their own airports. I think that shows how much they invest in the quality of time and what they're promising their customer. I also know about their package guarantee, so I think that's very awesome that they care enough about, you know, say your holiday delivery, that they're going to ensure that it's not going to get broken and ruin someone's Christmas. I definitely think they have a personal touch. Every time I've ever gone into a UPS store, you know, right away I'm greeted, even though there's only one staff member, even if they can't help me. I just feel like they're very dedicated to customer service, and I don't feel like you get that a lot.
What are some things that make you feel like you're well qualified for this position here?
Absolutely. I did an internship with a local company here. It's called Tower Bank, and I was their HR assistant.
Okay.
The nice thing was that it was paid, so they treated me like a regular employee, so that gave me some experience. That's pretty much what I've been doing for the last year, but right before that, I was working for my dad's company, and he always needs help with employees. He does them contracted, so I help them with their tax information and stuff like that, which seems like it has a lot to do with HR.
Yeah. And, I don't know, so what are some strengths that you have?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very detail oriented. Sometimes, I'll catch something that's really important that may have been overlooked. I know that that's something that my last position had told me I did a good job of. I'm also very outgoing, so when it comes to dealing with employees, I definitely try to be on their side, try to help them figure it out, because we are supposed to be the resource for the people. So I definitely think that's a strength. And then I would also say that I like to learn. So I'm very much like a sponge. I just take it all in and I look forward to learning from someone.
All right. At least those are all some good traits. Could you just give me an example of like where you being detail oriented has helped you in a previous job that you've had?
Yeah, absolutely. In my last position, I was doing outgoing invoices, and specifically I had an invoice for a flower shop, which I know that seems weird, but we always send our employees flowers.
Yeah.
New babies, or if they were sick, we'll send them flowers to get well, that kind of thing. So they bill us later. Every month we only get one bill, and there will probably be like 5 to 6 things, not very much, so you kind of just browse through it pretty quickly. The last month I was there, I was browsing through it, and it's easy to be like, oh, I'm leaving, but I tried really hard to stay detail oriented, and I was looking it over, and I noticed that we had been charged for someone who had the exact same name as our employee, except for it was spelled different. So, at first I was just like, oh, it's just misspelling, but then I was looking at the price of it, and I was like, that doesn't match up with what we have.
Yeah.
So I gave him a call, and I saved that company actually some money. They were charging us less than what it should have been. So.
All right, it's good. Could you just tell me about some of your weaknesses now?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say my weakness would be although detail oriented, I'm a little bit, I'm going to use the word messy, not unorganized.
Yeah.
So I tend to have certain projects started all at once, and that is kind of difficult sometimes, especially when, you have the clean desk rule. So it works out for me, it's just the way I do things, it's my method, but as far as working with a team, I think that's a weakness.
Yeah. Could you give me an example of how it may have caused a problem for you in the past?
Yeah, absolutely. We were working in teams at my dad's company, so it's lucky that I learned it there, so that when I went to the next one. And so we had to share desks. I shared desk with another receptionist. And so she wouldn't even be working at the same time as me, and she would come in, and then she would tell me, she would be like, there's just no room on this desk, I understand what you're doing, but, so that definitely was a weakness, but I've been working on that. I've found ways to make myself be organized with file folders and color coding and all the detail stuff. I've made it fun for myself.
All right, so this job requires that you deal with people. Could you just tell me an example of what you do, like if someone were to complain to you saying that they were being harassed by someone at work?
Would it be employee to employee?
Yeah, let's say employee to employee.
Okay. Being that we would be human resources, the person who was making a complaint, I would listen to them thoroughly. I may ask them a few questions depending on what the employee handbook says.
Yeah.
And then I would probably come to you, because then I would want to know if I should bring in the other person depending on the situation. I definitely think that would be something to handle with care, being that it was harassment, because I know that a lot of companies have like very strict policies on it. But yes, I would just take the time to listen to them, maybe take a few notes, and definitely keep it confidential, but come to you and see what I should do for my next step.
All right. And that's good to hear, because this is a very strong policy here, and you don't want to have problems with harassment.
Absolutely.
Could you give me an example of, say, you had to fire an employee, and what would you do if they started crying? How would you handle that situation?
Absolutely. That would definitely be very difficult.
Yeah.
You obviously don't want to see your employee cry, or anyone for that matter. But if they started crying, I would definitely get them a tissue and just discuss their options as far as COBRA goes afterwards, and discuss the fact that she would receive like a payout for her vacation. I'd probably focus on the positives, and I know that they taught us in school not to say I'm sorry, so I definitely would avoid that.
Yeah.
But just kind of focus on coaching her on what this means and what her next steps are as far as her insurance and things she needs to get into order. So that way she still sees us as somebody who cares, even though it didn't work out as far as her performance or whatever it may be went. So that's probably what I would focus on.
All right. And it'd be good to coach them, just to let them know their possibilities of what they could do, and just let them know about things like that. And also here, you need to be aware of like the discrimination policies. So the question I have is like, what would you do to make sure that you're not discriminating in the hiring process?
Sure. When a job is posted and somebody submits applications or resumes, I would definitely, look through the resumes. I don't necessarily always look through the application first, because that's where the personal information really comes out, I feel like. So I definitely look at that. The first thing I look at is grammatical errors, because I don't feel that that's discriminating. That's just kind of criteria.
Important to make sure your resumes are correct and
exactly. And then after that, I always put them into piles, qualified, very impressive, and then these ones are out due to those kinds of reasons. And then I would phone screen before I bring people in, because then I feel like I can get a good idea of where they stand with the position and their past experience, if it's something we want to bring in. So that's how I do it. I kind of keep it to like black and white paper, and that way I can decide by their skills rather than knowing them, if that makes sense. I definitely don't just go and call everyone and decide this person is who I want to talk to now. So I kind of have a process about it.
All right. And this job requires that you travel. There's 3 times a year that you have to go to Chicago for HR meetings. With traveling, do you have a problem for you at all?
No, not at all. I actually love Chicago. I used to live there, so I have a lot of friends there, and I mean that would be great for me actually, so I could see some people and get some work done. I have a reliable vehicle, and I don't have any reason to be held back as far as traveling goes. So I actually would look forward to that part of the position.
This job has many rules and regulations you need to learn, because obviously there's a lot of policies that you need to be aware of so we don't get in any legal trouble. So here are these. You should just look these over.
Okay.
And just whenever you have free time. And now that I've asked you all my questions, are there any questions or concerns that you have?
Yeah, there are a few questions that I would like to ask you. Is the position going to have any people that I report to? How many people would I report to?
Well, in HR, it's higher up, so a lot of people would be corporate that you report to. There are about 4 or 5 people in this area. You can report to me. The building manager, he has a lot of say over some stuff, so you can also report to him. You guys would do more working together.
Okay.
And
Okay, so 4 or 5 people.
yeah.
Okay. Could you tell me what a typical day looks like in this position?
A lot of the day you'd just be doing like paperwork, and you'd be involved a lot in the hiring and firing process of employees, looking through resumes, reading cover letters.
Okay. And then as far as when I go to Chicago, would the expenses be paid for that, or is that something I should start saving for?
We pay for your gas expenses. You just need to make sure you have a vehicle that you can drive up there and back.
Okay, absolutely. And overnight accommodations, should I plan to contact friends, or I just want to ensure that I understand how that will work? Is this an overnight stay, or is it just for the day when you go to Chicago?
Our meetings are typically just during the day, so you just arrive there early in the day, and later in the evening you just head back home.
Yeah, absolutely. The last question I wanted to ask is, learning is a big part of what I strive to find in a job. And I was just wondering if you guys provide any additional training as far as that goes, maybe conferences or anything like that.
Well, we have the meetings, as I already discussed, and then we also have some optional classroom settings that you can go to just learn more about the job and have possible room for advancement in the job.
Okay, that sounds fantastic. I think that's all my questions.
All right, well, thanks for your time.
Thank you very much.
We'll get back to you in the next week or two and let you know how we're going to go on from there.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Come in. Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
You must be Tommy.
Yep.
My name's Sergeant Stevens from the Fort Wayne Police Department. How are you doing?
Doing good.
Good. So you want to be a cop, huh?
Yeah.
All right, here's what's going to happen. This is the interview portion of selection. You've already done the physicals, you've done the fitness testing, that kind of stuff. Give you kind of an overview of where we're at. We'll have your interview here with me, do our one-on-one, we'll talk through stuff. They'll kind of do a roll-up of the score for the interview portion. At the end of that, once everybody's been interviewed, they'll kind of roll up all the numbers for everyone. The board will make the decision on who's going to move forward from this phase. They'll contact you usually within 2 to 3 business days. Check your email. They'll be getting an email from the training department on what the outcome is for this phase. After that, you'll move on into the medical testing, make sure that you're healthy, continue the background investigation, that kind of stuff. A detective should be contacting you. Finally, you'll sit before the local pension board. That'll be your final confirmation interview before the academy starts. So, as far as that goes, do you have any questions in regard to the process?
I think I'm good on that.
All right. I'm going to go through a couple of questions here. You'll see me making some notes. I have your resume here. Don't worry about what I write. No big deal. You're going to have kind of a subjective score and an objective score. Okay. And your objective score will get rolled up and graded, and that's kind of the way that the applicants will be paired against each other. To get started, why do you want to be a police officer?
I just think it'd be a good job. I like working with people. I just believe in justice and doing what's right.
All right. Second question. What do you think makes you a good candidate for this position?
I'm well qualified. I've had a little bit of experience doing things like this in the past.
Okay, next question. What do you think makes you a good candidate for police officer?
Well, I have a background in criminal justice, a type PFW for that, and I just have a little bit of experience in the field, so I also think that would help make me qualified.
Can you tell me what your GPA was at school?
I had a 3.6.
Out of 4, I assume?
Yes.
All right. Third question, what does integrity mean to you? In your own words.
To me, it just means you're a good person who's just willing to work and get the job done, just be task oriented and just do what you can to do your best.
All right, next question. Describe to me, if you would, when you persevered through a difficult situation or a difficult time in your life.
Well, one example would be when my grandpa died. It was just a really tough thing to go through. I was close to him. I just had to have help with my friends and family, but I mean, I got through it okay, and it was just a tough time in my life.
All right. Describe to me what you feel would be one of your top strengths.
One of my strengths, I would say, is just being a good worker. I always do my best. I come into work on time. I'm ready to do the job and motivated.
What would you say now, on the opposite end, what would you say is one of your weaknesses?
Well, I'd say since I'm applying to be a police officer, sometimes I can be too nice, and I know for this type of job that can be a weakness, so I just gotta try to get over that type of thinking sometimes.
Too nice. For sure. All right, moving on. Why are you leaving your current job?
I just want something that's more of a career right now. I just kind of have a job, so I just would like something I can do for the rest of my life, and what I had was just something to kind of do while I was getting through school, and I think that this would be a good job to have.
Can you describe a previous experience that you've had that you feel has prepared you for this position?
Well, I had an internship with the Fort Wayne Police once, and I don't know, I just feel like it helped prepare me. It just gave me a general idea of what I would be doing and just what I need to do if I were to get a job here or at any other police station.
So you have an idea of the expectations, basically.
Yeah.
What would you say are some things that would separate you from the other candidates?
I'd say that just my motivation level and my just that I want to work, that I always want to do the best. I just will come in every day and do a great job. And I mean, I'm not going to be late. You're not going to have problems with me with those types of things.
Anything else that would separate you from the kind of the average person or the average candidate?
I just think that I'm smart and good at solving problems too. So I think that would also help that.
All right. Can you describe a time where you had a conflict with a coworker or boss, essentially some type of on-the-job conflict? It would not have to be a physical thing necessarily, but maybe a legitimate disagreement, some type of conflict with a coworker or boss. Can you tell me about that?
Well, my previous job, I had a problem where I didn't think my supervisor was running the area correctly, because at night after night things weren't getting done, and I talked to my manager about it, and they looked into it, and they actually took one of my suggestions to heart, and it actually helped things run smoother for the organization.
Good. So you said it actually taken suggestions?
Yeah.
And made an improvement
Yeah.
in the operations there? All right. And that you went to your boss and they had actually, you made some suggestions. Is that how you would say you essentially had resolved that conflict? Does that make sense? Am I understanding you right?
Yeah, I
Okay.
helped resolve it, because after I went to him and talked to him about it, I know people don't like their their employees talking bad about their supervisors, but it was consistently a problem, and then when they took in my suggestion, it actually did help things run smoother from that point on.
Right. Good. That's it for the actual graded portion of your questions, but is there anything else that you feel that we need to know about you, something that we've missed, something that might kind of help your case as a candidate. Maybe there's something that you do, some kind of interest that you pursue on your own, or some type of education that you've pursued on your own that outside of school that might kind of help your case as a candidate for the police department.
Once you get hired, are there many learning opportunities to help us better ourselves within the job?
There's a number of things actually, and it would kind of everybody's going to go through essentially the police officer basic training. They're going to go through the academy, the Public Safety Academy down south. After that, you're going to do a 6 months of probationary period with an immediate supervisor, somebody that essentially the two of you would be a team. You'd have somebody with immediate oversight at all times.
All right.
And then for another 6 months on your probation, essentially you're probationary for a year, and on probationary pay scale. And after that 6 months, you would be in field training where you'd be operating alone.
Okay.
Not alone, obviously. You're working with the police department, and you have the radio, and you have other partners that are out and about. But you don't have somebody that's overseeing you, literally next to you or over your shoulder at all times. You become independent at that point. Start driving a take-home car, that kind of thing. As far as additional training, we're always trying to progress the careers of our officers and continuously seeking professional development.
Okay.
There is specific training, medical training for some officers, emergency services training for those that meet the selection process for EST. There's also detective course if you get elected in the detectives. Essentially, there's some type of parallel training for whatever duty position you would get switched to after patrolman.
All right.
If that makes sense. Do you have any other questions for the department at this time?
I think I'm good.
All right, just so you know, kind of restating what we talked about, we'll kind of roll up all the data and average all the scores for the candidates, and if you're selected to move on, we'll be letting you know. Decisions should be made by the end of this week, and you should be informed by this time next Wednesday. You should have an answer whether or not you'll be moving on. You'll get follow-on instructions on moving on to the medical portion of the testing for the police department, and hopefully from there you'll be moving on to be officer for Fort Wayne.
All right.
I appreciate your time.
All right. Thanks.
Thanks for stopping by.